The Antarctic Discovery. In 1946, Admiral Richard E. Byrd led Operation High Jump, officially described as a routine Antarctic mapping mission. But classified documents reveal the expedition discovered something extraordinary beneath the ice, an intact ancient city with architecture and technology that predated known civilization by thousands of years. The discovery was immediately classified, and Byrd spent the rest of his life under surveillance for what he called the most important discovery in human history. Operation High Jump involved 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft, an enormous force for a simple mapping mission. The official story claimed they were establishing Antarctic bases and testing equipment in polar conditions. But Byrd's personal diary, released decades after his death, tells a very different story. On February 19, 1947, Byrd's diary describes flying over the Antarctic interior when his aircraft instruments began malfunctioning near what appeared to be an ice-free valley. As they descended, his team discovered impossibly warm areas where the ice had melted to reveal ancient stone structures built with precision that exceeded modern construction techniques. The structures weren't primitive shelters, but sophisticated buildings incorporating architectural principles that wouldn't be developed by known civilizations for millennia. The stonework showed evidence of advanced cutting and lifting techniques, with massive blocks fitted together so perfectly that no mortar was needed. Most extraordinary was the discovery of what appeared to be technological artifacts within the buildings, metallic objects with properties that couldn't be identified by contemporary science. Some devices appeared to be generating heat that kept the surrounding area ice-free despite the polar environment. Byrd's team documented extensive hieroglyphic inscriptions that didn't match any known ancient writing systems. The symbols appeared to describe advanced scientific concepts, including astronomical calculations, mathematical formulas, and what looked like technical diagrams for unknown machinery. When Byrd reported his findings to military authorities, he was immediately ordered to cease exploration and return to base. The warm valley was declared off-limits, and all documentation was classified under the highest levels of national security. Upon returning to the United States, Byrd was subjected to extensive debriefing sessions and ordered never to discuss his Antarctic discoveries publicly. His subsequent interviews focused exclusively on standard polar exploration, while avoiding any mention of the ancient structures. The most chilling aspect of the cover-up was the systematic elimination of evidence. Photographs taken during the expedition disappeared from official archives. Team members were transferred to different assignments and prohibited from communicating with each other, and Byrd's original reports were classified so thoroughly that their existence was denied. Modern satellite imagery of Antarctica shows unusual geometric patterns beneath the ice in areas corresponding to Byrd's described locations. However, these regions remain restricted to scientific access, and international treaties prevent independent investigation of the anomalous structures. The Antarctic discovery represents proof that advanced civilization existed in polar regions long before accepted human history. But this knowledge has been systematically suppressed to prevent challenges to established archaeological timelines and maintain control over revolutionary discoveries. The Amazon vanishing. In 1925, British explorer Colonel Percy Fawcett launched his final expedition into the Amazon rainforest, searching for a lost civilization he called Zede. Fawcett's team discovered evidence of advanced urban planning, sophisticated agriculture, and metallurgical techniques that exceeded contemporary capabilities. The expedition vanished without a trace, but recently declassified documents reveal their discoveries were so significant that multiple governments coordinated to suppress all evidence of their findings. Fawcett had spent years researching Portuguese colonial documents that described encounters with highly organized indigenous cities, featuring paved roads, multi-story buildings, and populations numbering in the hundreds of thousands. These accounts contradicted accepted beliefs about Amazon civilizations being small, primitive tribes. The expedition team included Fawcett's son, Jack, and photographer Raleigh Rymel, who documented their journey with detailed maps, photographs, and notes that were transmitted back to England through indigenous messenger networks until the communications suddenly stopped. Their final dispatches described discovering massive earthwork formations that created sophisticated agricultural systems capable of supporting large populations in challenging rainforest environments. The agricultural techniques included soil enhancement methods that created incredibly fertile terra preta deposits still found throughout the Amazon. Most extraordinary were reports of metallurgical workshops that had produced alloys unknown to contemporary science. Fawcett described finding tools and decorative objects made from metals that were lighter than aluminum but stronger than steel, suggesting advanced understanding of materials science. The team documented architectural remains showing evidence of urban planning that incorporated advanced engineering principles. Roads were constructed with drainage systems, buildings were designed to withstand floods and earthquakes, and the cities showed evidence of sophisticated water management that channeled seasonal flooding for agricultural benefit. When Fawcett's communications ceased, the Royal Geographical Society launched multiple rescue expeditions, but searchers found no trace of the missing team. However, they did discover indigenous populations who possessed detailed knowledge of the lost cities and claimed the explorers had been taken by the Guardians to prevent their secrets from reaching the outside world. Decades later, investigation revealed that Fawcett's discoveries had been monitored by intelligence agencies from Britain, Brazil, and the United States. The advanced Amazon civilizations represented evidence that could challenge colonial justifications for conquering primitive peoples and prove that indigenous populations had achieved sophisticated development. Modern archaeological research has confirmed many of Fawcett's theories about advanced Amazon civilizations, but investigations into his specific discoveries are blocked by government claims that the areas contain sensitive indigenous territories that cannot be accessed by outside researchers. Satellite imagery shows geometric patterns in remote Amazon regions that correspond to Fawcett's described locations, including roadway networks and urban formations that suggest sophisticated city planning. However, these areas remain restricted to unauthorized research. The Amazon vanishing represents the systematic suppression of evidence, proving that indigenous civilizations achieved advanced development that challenges established narratives about technological progress and provides inconvenient truths about the sophistication of cultures that were systematically destroyed by colonial expansion. The Tibet Manuscript Hunt. In 1924, Russian explorer Nicholas Roerich led an expedition across Central Asia and Tibet that discovered ancient manuscripts containing advanced scientific knowledge, detailed maps of unknown lands, and prophetic texts describing future technological developments with impossible accuracy. The expedition's findings were so extraordinary that Soviet authorities immediately classified all documentation and placed team members under permanent surveillance. Roerich's expedition was officially cultural and artistic research, but classified Soviet documents reveal the true mission was locating specific manuscripts that Buddhist monks claimed contained knowledge from the stars, advanced scientific information supposedly preserved from prehistoric civilizations. The team discovered hidden libraries in remote Tibetan monasteries containing thousands of manuscripts written in unknown scripts. When translated by scholarly monks, the texts revealed sophisticated understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and physics that exceeded contemporary scientific knowledge by centuries. Most extraordinary were manuscripts containing detailed technical diagrams for mechanical devices that operated according to principles unknown to modern engineering. The diagrams showed machines for generating energy, controlling weather patterns, and achieving flight using methods that didn't require combustion or conventional propulsion. The texts included precise astronomical calculations, showing positions of celestial bodies that couldn't be observed without advanced instruments, suggesting ancient astronomers had access to technology equivalent to modern telescopes. The calculations extended thousands of years into the future with mathematical precision. Roerich documented prophecies describing future inventions, including devices for long-distance communication, mechanical transportation, and energy generation that matched developments that wouldn't occur until decades later. The accuracy of these predictions suggested access to information about technological development timelines. When Soviet authorities learned of the manuscript's contents, They ordered immediate confiscation of all materials and classified the expedition's findings under the highest levels of state secrecy. Team members were prohibited from discussing their discoveries and placed under surveillance that continued for the rest of their lives. The most valuable manuscripts were transferred to classified research facilities, where Soviet scientists attempted to decode the advanced technical information for military applications. However, many of the described technologies required materials and manufacturing techniques that wouldn't be developed for decades. Attempts by international scholars to access Rorik's Tibetan manuscripts have been consistently blocked by Russian authorities who claim the materials contain culturally sensitive religious information that cannot be shared with foreign researchers. Recent analysis of Rorik's surviving notes reveals references to manuscripts describing global catastrophes that occur in predictable cycles, advanced civilizations that achieve space travel, and technologies that could provide unlimited energy through methods that modern physics considers impossible. The Tibet manuscript hunt represents the systematic suppression of ancient scientific knowledge that could revolutionize human understanding of technology and history, while providing evidence that advanced civilizations existed in prehistoric times with capabilities exceeding contemporary development. The Gobi Secret. In 1922, American paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews led expeditions into the Gobi Desert that discovered not only dinosaur fossils, but evidence of an advanced prehistoric civilization that possessed metallurgy, mathematics, and astronomical knowledge that challenged every assumption about human development. The discoveries were quietly confiscated by multiple governments and erased from archaeological records. Andrews' expedition was hunting for fossil evidence of early human evolution, but team geologist Walter Granger documented finding metallic artifacts embedded in rock formations dating back millions of years, an impossibility according to accepted archaeological timelines. The artifacts included precision-machined metal objects, showing evidence of advanced manufacturing techniques, geometric forms that suggested sophisticated mathematical understanding, and devices that appeared to be scientific instruments for astronomical observation. Most extraordinary was the discovery of what appeared to be a preserved ancient laboratory containing equipment for metallurgy, chemical analysis, and astronomical calculation. The facility was carved into solid rock and showed evidence of advanced engineering that required tools and techniques unknown to prehistoric populations. Carbon dating of organic materials found with the artifacts suggested they were millions of years old, but the sophistication of the metalwork indicated technological capabilities that exceeded modern manufacturing. The contradiction challenged fundamental assumptions about the development of human civilization. Andrews documented finding extensive libraries carved into rock walls containing symbols and mathematical formulas that demonstrated advanced understanding of physics, astronomy, and engineering. The information included detailed star charts showing celestial positions from millions of years ago with accuracy that required sophisticated instruments. When expedition findings were reported to American and Mongolian authorities, officials from multiple countries converged on the site and immediately classified all discoveries. Team members were ordered to sign extensive non-disclosure agreements and prohibited from publishing their findings. The ancient Gobi site was sealed and declared off-limits to further archaeological investigation. Official reports attributed the expedition's early termination to political instability, while concealing the true reason for ending the research. Subsequent attempts by international archaeological teams to investigate the Gobi discoveries have been blocked by Mongolian authorities who claim the areas contain culturally sensitive sites that cannot be accessed by foreign researchers. Recent satellite imagery shows unusual geometric formations in remote Gobi regions that correspond to Andrews' described locations, including carved structures and roadway patterns that suggest sophisticated urban planning from prehistoric periods. The Gobi Secret represents evidence that advanced technological civilization existed millions of years ago, challenging every accepted theory about human development, and suggesting that sophisticated knowledge has been repeatedly achieved and lost throughout Earth's history. The Arctic Anomaly. In 1913, Canadian explorer Vilhjalmur Stephenson discovered evidence in the Arctic that advanced human populations had lived in polar regions for far longer than accepted archaeological theory allowed. His expedition found sophisticated tools, architectural remains, and astronomical instruments that suggested Arctic civilizations had achieved remarkable development in impossible environmental conditions. The discoveries were classified by the Canadian government, and Stephenson was prohibited from further Arctic research. Stephenson's expedition was mapping uncharted Arctic territories when team members discovered structures buried in permafrost that showed evidence of advanced construction techniques. The buildings were designed to withstand extreme cold using engineering principles that modern Arctic construction still struggles to achieve. The structures contained sophisticated heating systems that operated without visible fuel sources, suggesting ancient Arctic peoples had developed energy generation methods unknown to contemporary technology. The heating systems continued to function despite being buried in ice for centuries. Most remarkable were astronomical instruments found within the structures that demonstrated precise understanding of celestial mechanics. The devices could calculate planetary positions, predict eclipses, and track long-term astronomical cycles with accuracy that required advanced mathematical knowledge. Tools discovered at the site were made from unknown metal alloys that remained sharp and functional despite extreme age and environmental exposure. Analysis revealed metallurgical techniques that produce materials superior to contemporary manufacturing. Stephenson documented finding extensive libraries carved into ice that contained symbolic writing systems, describing advanced scientific concepts including mathematics, astronomy, and what appeared to be technical manuals for the mysterious heating systems. The most extraordinary discovery was evidence that Arctic civilizations had maintained contact with populations in other regions through sophisticated transportation networks. Maps carved into ice show detailed knowledge of global geography, including areas that wouldn't be explored by modern expeditions for decades. When Stephenson reported his findings to Canadian authorities, government officials immediately classified all documentation and prohibited further investigation. The Arctic sites were declared restricted areas, and access was limited to authorized government personnel. Team members were subjected to extensive interviews and required to sign agreements never to discuss their discoveries. Stephenson's subsequent Arctic expeditions were limited to standard geographical mapping, while avoiding the areas where advanced civilizations had been discovered. Modern climate change has revealed additional Arctic structures as ice melts. But these discoveries are immediately secured by government agencies and removed from public awareness. International treaties prevent independent investigation of the anomalous Arctic sites. The Arctic anomaly proves that advanced civilizations thrived in polar environments, using technologies that enabled survival and development in conditions that modern populations consider barely habitable, suggesting human adaptation and technological development occurred far earlier and more extensively than accepted history acknowledges. The Pacific Mystery. In 1947, Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl's Kon-Tiki expedition across the Pacific Ocean accidentally discovered evidence of advanced prehistoric maritime civilizations that had achieved transoceanic navigation and established sophisticated trade networks thousands of years before accepted historical timelines. The discoveries challenged fundamental assumptions about ancient technological capabilities and were systematically suppressed by academic institutions. Heyerdahl's journey was intended to prove that prehistoric South Americans could have reached Polynesia using primitive raft technology, but the expedition discovered evidence of far more sophisticated ancient maritime capabilities than anyone had imagined. During the Pacific crossing, the team encountered island populations who possessed detailed knowledge of ocean currents, weather patterns, and navigation techniques that exceeded contemporary maritime science. The islanders described ancient trade routes connecting distant continents using methods unknown to modern shipping. Most extraordinary were discoveries of navigational instruments on remote islands that demonstrated mathematical and astronomical knowledge that shouldn't have existed in prehistoric populations. The devices could calculate positions using stellar navigation with precision that required advanced understanding of spherical trigonometry. Heyerdahl documented finding megalithic structures on uninhabited islands that showed evidence of advanced construction techniques. The stonework incorporated engineering principles that enabled massive buildings to withstand earthquakes and tsunamis using methods that modern construction has difficulty replicating. The expedition discovered evidence of prehistoric mining operations that had extracted metals and minerals from islands and transported them across vast ocean distances. The mining showed evidence of techniques for identifying and processing materials that required sophisticated geological knowledge. Island populations described ancient civilizations that had possessed skyboats capable of flight and fire ships that could travel underwater, suggesting technological capabilities that challenged accepted beliefs about prehistoric development limitations. When Heyerdahl attempted to publish his findings about advanced prehistoric maritime civilizations, academic institutions refused to accept evidence that contradicted established theories about ancient technological limitations. Publishers rejected manuscripts that described impossible prehistoric capabilities. The systematic suppression intensified when Heyerdahl tried to organize follow-up expeditions to investigate the advanced Pacific civilizations. Funding was denied, permits were refused, and academic colleagues distanced themselves from research that threatened established archaeological paradigms. Modern oceanographic research has confirmed many of Heyerdahl's observations about ancient Pacific trade networks, but investigations into the advanced technological aspects of his discoveries are discouraged through academic pressure and funding restrictions. The Pacific Mystery represents evidence that prehistoric civilizations achieved maritime technological development that exceeded contemporary capabilities, suggesting that ancient populations possessed advanced knowledge and engineering skills that have been systematically written out of accepted history. The Sahara Expedition. In 1933, French archaeologist Henri Lehout led an expedition into the Sahara Desert that discovered evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations that had flourished in the region when it was still green and fertile. The team found sophisticated urban remains, advanced irrigation systems, and rock art depicting impossible technologies that challenged every assumption about African prehistoric development. The discoveries were classified by French colonial authorities, and Lehout was prohibited from publishing his most significant findings. Lehout's expedition was investigating prehistoric rock art in the Tassili N'Ajjer region, when team members discovered that the paintings weren't primitive artistic expressions, but detailed technical diagrams showing advanced mechanical devices and scientific concepts. The rock art depicted sophisticated aircraft with design features that suggested understanding of aerodynamics, propulsion systems that didn't match any known prehistoric technology, and flight capabilities that exceeded contemporary aviation development. Most extraordinary were paintings showing figures in what appeared to be protective suits operating complex machinery, suggesting that prehistoric Saharan populations had developed technologies requiring specialized safety equipment and operational training. Archaeological excavation revealed urban remains buried beneath sand dunes that showed evidence of advanced city planning, including sophisticated water management systems, multi-story buildings constructed with precision engineering, and manufacturing facilities for producing unknown technologies. The irrigation systems discovered by Lehout's team demonstrated hydraulic engineering that could have maintained agricultural civilization in challenging desert conditions, using techniques that modern engineering considers extremely sophisticated. Team members documented finding metallic artifacts that showed evidence of advanced metallurgy, including alloys that couldn't be identified, using contemporary analysis techniques and manufacturing precision that exceeded modern capabilities. When Lehout reported his findings to French colonial authorities, officials immediately classified the most significant discoveries and prohibited publication of evidence that could challenge established beliefs about African technological development. The systematic suppression was motivated by concerns that evidence of advanced prehistoric African civilizations could undermine colonial justifications for European technological superiority and suggest that sophisticated development had been achieved by populations that colonial authorities considered primitive. Modern satellite imagery has revealed extensive archaeological remains beneath Saharan sands in areas corresponding to Lehout's discoveries, But international access to these sites is blocked by North African governments who claim the areas require protection from unauthorized excavation. Recent analysis of Lahote's surviving documentation reveals descriptions of discoveries that could revolutionize understanding of prehistoric African technological achievement, but the most significant evidence remains classified in French archives that are inaccessible to independent researchers. The Sahara expedition represents proof that advanced civilizations flourished in prehistoric Africa, with technological capabilities that have been systematically suppressed to maintain established narratives about African development and prevent acknowledgement of sophisticated indigenous achievement. The Himalayan encounter. In 1938, German explorer Ernst Schaefer led a Tibet expedition that discovered evidence of advanced ancient technologies hidden in Himalayan monasteries, including devices that appeared to manipulate gravity and energy sources that operated according to unknown principles. The expedition's findings were so extraordinary that both Nazi Germany and Allied intelligence agencies fought to control the discoveries, ultimately suppressing all evidence to prevent either side from gaining technological advantages. Schaefer's expedition was officially studying Tibetan wildlife and culture, but classified documents reveal the true mission was locating advanced technologies that Tibetan legends claimed had been preserved from prehistoric civilizations. The team gained access to hidden chambers in remote monasteries containing devices that demonstrated impossible capabilities, including objects that levitated without visible support and energy sources that generated power without fuel or mechanical components. Most extraordinary were demonstrations by Tibetan monks of consciousness-controlled technologies that responded to mental commands rather than physical manipulation, suggesting integration of human awareness with mechanical systems using principles unknown to contemporary science. The devices appeared to operate using principles that violated known physics, including apparent manipulation of gravitational fields, conversion of consciousness into mechanical energy, and control of electromagnetic forces through mental concentration rather than electronic systems. Schaefer documented extensive technical diagrams carved into monastery walls that describe the construction and operation of the advanced devices. The information included mathematical formulas and engineering principles that exceeded contemporary scientific understanding. When Nazi authorities learned of the expedition's discoveries, they immediately dispatched additional teams to secure the technologies for military applications. However, Allied intelligence agencies had also learned of the findings and launched competing operations to prevent German access. The situation escalated into covert warfare in the Himalayas, as multiple intelligence agencies fought to control access to the monasteries and their advanced technologies. The conflict resulted in the destruction of many artifacts and the sealing of the facilities to prevent further foreign access. Tibetan monks, recognizing the dangers of their preserved technologies falling into military hands, implemented protocols for hiding or destroying the devices rather than allowing them to be used for warfare. Post-war investigations by both American and Soviet intelligence agencies attempted to locate the Himalayan technologies, but found that most devices had been concealed or destroyed during the wartime conflicts. Modern attempts to study the Himalayan discoveries are blocked by Chinese authorities who control Tibetan territories and prohibit independent research into the region's ancient technologies and preserve scientific knowledge. The Himalayan encounter represents evidence that advanced consciousness technology integration existed in prehistoric times and was preserved by Tibetan civilizations until world powers recognized its potential and fought to control discoveries that could revolutionize human understanding of the relationship between awareness and physical reality. The Australian blackout. In 1931, British archaeologist Grafton Elliott Smith led an expedition into the Australian outback that discovered Aboriginal sites containing evidence of advanced prehistoric knowledge, including astronomical calculations, geological surveys, and technological capabilities that exceeded contemporary understanding. The discoveries were immediately classified by the Australian government, and Smith was prohibited from publishing findings that could challenge established beliefs about indigenous capabilities. Smith's expedition was investigating Aboriginal archaeological sites to document primitive cultural development, but the team discovered evidence of sophisticated scientific knowledge that contradicted every assumption about indigenous technological limitations. The sites contained rock art that demonstrated advanced understanding of astronomy, including accurate star charts, planetary movement calculations, and cosmic cycle predictions that required mathematical knowledge exceeding contemporary scientific capabilities. Most extraordinary were geological surveys carved into rock that showed detailed knowledge of underground mineral deposits, water sources, and geological formations that suggested sophisticated understanding of earth sciences and mapping techniques. Aboriginal guides demonstrated navigation methods that incorporated complex mathematical calculations, environmental observation techniques, and geographical knowledge that enabled precise positioning across vast distances without mechanical instruments. The expedition documented finding evidence of mining operations that had extracted materials using techniques that modern geology considered extremely advanced, including precise identification of ore deposits and sophisticated processing methods. Smith discovered that Aboriginal oral traditions contain detailed technical knowledge about environmental management, sustainable agriculture, and ecological balance that demonstrated scientific understanding of complex biological and chemical systems. When Smith attempted to publish findings about advanced Aboriginal knowledge, Australian colonial authorities prohibited release of information that could challenge established beliefs about Indigenous intellectual capabilities and threaten justifications for European technological superiority. The systematic suppression was coordinated between British and Australian governments to prevent evidence of sophisticated Indigenous achievement from undermining colonial policies and cultural narratives about European advancement. Academic institutions were instructed to reject research that credited Aboriginal populations with advanced scientific knowledge, and Smith's career was effectively ended when he persisted in attempting to publish his discoveries. Modern research has confirmed many aspects of Smith's findings about Aboriginal scientific knowledge, but investigations into the most advanced discoveries remain restricted by government claims about protecting Indigenous cultural secrets. The Australian blackout represents the systematic suppression of evidence proving that Indigenous populations possessed advanced scientific knowledge and technological capabilities that have been deliberately written out of accepted history to maintain narratives supporting colonial cultural superiority. The Mayan Revelation. In 1952, Mexican archaeologist Alberto Ruiz Luilier's expedition at Palenque discovered not only the tomb of Pakal the Great, but evidence that Maya civilization had possessed advanced technologies including precision machinery, astronomical computers, and energy systems that operated according to principles unknown to contemporary science. The most extraordinary discoveries were classified by the Mexican government and removed from the archaeological site before international scholars could examine them. Ruiz's excavation of the Temple of Inscriptions revealed burial chambers containing technological artifacts that appeared to be sophisticated mechanical devices rather than ceremonial objects, suggesting Maya civilization had achieved industrial development that exceeded accepted archaeological timelines. The artifacts included precision machine components made from unknown materials that showed evidence of manufacturing techniques requiring advanced tools and mathematical knowledge. The mechanical precision exceeded what should have been possible using accepted Maya technological capabilities. Most extraordinary were devices that appeared to be astronomical computers, capable of calculating planetary positions, eclipse cycles, and cosmic events with accuracy that required understanding of advanced mathematical concepts and access to precise observational data. The tomb contained energy generation systems that continued to function despite being sealed for over 1,000 years, suggesting Maya engineers had developed power sources that operated according to principles unknown to contemporary technology. Ruiz documented finding extensive technical diagrams carved into hidden chambers that described the construction and operation of the advanced devices. The information included mathematical formulas and engineering specifications that exceeded modern scientific understanding. Analysis of the technological artifacts revealed that Maya civilization had achieved metallurgical capabilities that produced materials with properties superior to contemporary manufacturing, including alloys that were lighter, stronger, and more durable than modern metals. When Mexican authorities learned of the expedition's technological discoveries, they immediately classified the findings and removed the most extraordinary artifacts from the site before international archaeological teams could conduct independent analysis. The systematic suppression was motivated by concerns that evidence of advanced Maya technological development could challenge established narratives about indigenous capabilities and force revision of accepted archaeological timelines. Academic institutions were pressured to focus on cultural and artistic aspects of Maya civilization, while avoiding research into technological achievements that could prove sophisticated indigenous development. Modern attempts to investigate the advanced aspects of Maya technology are blocked by Mexican authorities who claim that such research could damage fragile archaeological sites and violate indigenous cultural protections. The Mayan revelation represents evidence that Maya civilization achieved technological development that has been systematically suppressed to maintain established archaeological paradigms and prevent acknowledgement of advanced indigenous scientific achievement that could challenge accepted timelines of human development. Conclusion: these 10 lost expeditions reveal a disturbing pattern. Whenever explorers discover evidence that challenges accepted historical narratives, their findings are systematically suppressed, their teams disbanded, and their discoveries erased from the record. From Antarctic cities that predate known civilization to Arctic populations with impossible survival technologies, these expeditions found proof that human history is far more complex and advanced than we've been taught. What unites these discoveries isn't just their extraordinary nature, but the coordinated efforts to hide them. Government agencies, academic institutions, and powerful interests have worked together to ensure that evidence of advanced ancient civilizations, sophisticated indigenous technologies, and prehistoric achievements never reaches public awareness. The evidence suggests our understanding of human development has been deliberately constrained to support specific narratives about technological progress, cultural superiority, and historical timelines. These lost expeditions found proof that advanced knowledge and sophisticated civilizations have existed throughout human history. But this evidence threatens established power structures that depend on controlling information about our past. The systematic suppression of these discoveries represents more than academic politics. It's the deliberate theft of human heritage. Somewhere in classified archives and sealed sites lie the discoveries that could revolutionize our understanding of what human civilization has achieved and what we're truly capable of accomplishing.